Welcome to another In Conversation on We Need to Talk. I am so excited to be here with Rev Karla. We have been following each other on social media for quite some time, but I don't think we've ever actually done this. So I'm super excited to be chatting with you. You were just live on TikTok, so hopefully we get some of those viewers over here as well. But I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your journey. When I found your content and started following you, I always felt like this peace and this love and just you wanting to really guide people in such a beautiful way. And I know we had a conversation about a little bit about how you deconstructed and you're more spiritual now. And so I just want to talk a little bit about that because as you know, I work now with TNE. I'm the executive director there, and a lot of the people in that community are from the deconstruction space. And I don't know if you know this, but I never deconstructed because I always was born and raised a progressive Christian. That's just what my life was. So when I got exposed to like evangelicalism and white Christian nationalism, I was blown away that this existed because it was never something I was exposed to. So I just want to hear a little bit more about your journey with spirituality, with your faith, your deconstruction. I'm just going to give you the floor because I just want to learn from you. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm first of all, I'm honored to be here.
Yeah.
And it is definitely a mutual admiration for you, but I also want to acknowledge something that you did that I'll never forget. When the Christians for Kamala campaign came up, and you invited me into that space. And so often, as someone who was unchurched at the time, and obviously I still am, but I still identified as a Christian during that campaign, and that was a beautiful experience. The way you put all of us together. That would not have happened. I would not have been invited to something like that without you.
Hmm.
And because I think you get it. You are one of those who gets that I am not a threat to you.
Right.
You understand, and I could put words in your mouth, but I think I know enough about you to know that you understand that there's some of us that for our own good and based on our experiences, it is in our best interest that we stay unchurched.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
wherever that leads us, some people do end up going back to church, but for many of us, we tend to spiral away and even become untethered from our Christian heritage, which is what happened to me recently.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was really starting around the election for me, if I want to be honest. And then it really just kind of just broke out like, okay, it's time for me to talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, I was raised Southern Baptist. I was in it.
Yeah.
Church 3 times a week, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, the vacation Bible schools, I was always there, and the revivals, even as a little girl, in the beautiful rolling hills of Kentucky, if my grandmother's car was pointed towards church, I was in it. So I would sit through 2 weeks in those crazy hot tents, listening to those intense preachers, and I was enamored by them. I just thought they were just like I did think they were like God.
Mm.
But the other day, even I was talking to when I was on live on TikTok, I was talking about how I can even remember that was probably the first moment of tension for me because I looked at them and I thought, I can do that.
Mm.
At 9 years old, I go, I can do that. I can probably even do it better, but I can't because already knew my church would not accept women preachers. And see, I'm a child of the 60s. So here we are in 2025, and the Southern Baptist Convention just keeps doubling down on the fact that women shouldn't preach. And they continue to kick churches out who are awakening to the archaic holding on to those beliefs in a way that harm women, that harm people who have been historically oppressed,
Yeah.
and not understanding the intersectionality of that. But so little by little, I was navigating through Christianity, and I ended up in non-denominational Christianity. That I've been baptized a couple of times because one wouldn't accept the other baptism and all those crazy things. But I so wanted to be accepted because I kept believing that there was something wrong with me. That there was something inherently wrong with me because everybody else seemed to be happy inside Christianity except me. So it has to be me. And so when I finally started to realize, well, I was in a progressive church. I was an ordained elder in a Presbyterian church, but I knew something was still shifting for me. That even inside progressive church, because at the time when I was a leader inside the Presbyterian church, we started talking about ordaining the LGBTQIA plus community, and I then didn't realize how many people sitting in the pew beside me were homophobic.
Mm,
It absolutely broke my heart
mm,
because I could. That's where I was conflicting with my own faith, because I came from the place where being gay was a sin, but moving to progressive, I just thought I found a place where we were releasing people from those kinds of harmful beliefs where they could live the way they wanted to live and show up in their authenticity. And so that really shook me to the core. That experience really did. So I thought something's happening. And if I'm really thinking what I'm thinking is happening, I couldn't even say the words to myself. I was going to go all in. And so I ended up in an apostolic Pentecostal church. I went
oh,
all in,
yeah.
speaking in tongues, faith healing, the whole 9 yards. And there's never been a time, nobody, don't you dare out there call me a church hopper, because that's not what I was. I did the work. I was at the church 5, 6 days a week. I was the hardworking, good Christian trying to figure out and reconcile what was happening inside me and why I still could not find the peace that surpasses all understanding. I was looking for that all the time. Well, the tension grew by the time I had gotten to that point, because that wasn't what I was looking for. It wasn't the
Yeah.
immersion of the Holy Spirit, because I then was recognizing some of the hypocrisy. I had to accept that what people had done to some of organized religion was what was the conflict I had. And whether it was some personally, my personality type or whatever it was, it began to suffocate me. Literally, I felt suffocated. And I tell a lot of those experiences in my book, but really the day I knew I was leaving, I knew I was leaving. I knew I would never come back to that church. I just didn't at the time know that I was leaving church for good.
Mm,
I thought eventually I would end up finding where I belonged, because there was no way. I still believed in that, in an active God who would answer my prayers and put me where I needed to serve.
yeah.
And very much felt that I just hadn't found it yet. But what ended up happening instead was I found new mentors. I found new ways to understand creation, divine, the mystery and wonder of spirituality, dove deep into world religions, was mentored by a shaman. Without their guidance, I don't know what I would do, even though I was really angry with them when they said, listen, you're going to get through this and you're going to turn around and you're going to say to people this way. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's the
Yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. How am I going to tell anybody how to get through this?
Yeah.
And then I go, oh, you know what? They weren't that far away from the truth. But then I ended up, I knew I wanted to be in, when I left that church, I was in their school of ministry, which was really just a way to keep people in unpaid labor, but by
Mhm.
giving them an unofficial
Yeah.
title, because the ordination of pastor was a moving target.
Yeah.
You never know what you had to do. That all of a sudden, just one day you were going to be a pastor. Big deal. So I did go to an interfaith, inter spiritual seminary, but even at that time, Malynda, I didn't tell people. I didn't tell my family.
Mm,
Of course, my husband knew, but I didn't. And my children knew, but I didn't tell many people, because I still have a heavy Southern Baptist representation in my family,
right.
and I didn't tell a soul. They just assumed. They would say things like, "What church you're going to serve?" And I went, "No, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just wait and see what happens." And then finally, I started writing online after
Mhm.
I was ordained, and I really didn't know where it was going to lead.
Mhm.
I started
When were you ordained? What year?
2017.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started writing about 2015, right as I entered seminary. And so that's kind of where, then you go to and TikTok in 2020 and what they say, the rest is history.
Yeah.
TikTok changes everything.
I love it. You've built such a huge community over there. I love it, and I feel like I mean, what you said about me is what I feel about you. You said you felt like you wouldn't have been invited into that space because I get it. I feel like you allow people into your community and your space because you get it, right? And I feel like you've opened up. I hate to use the word safe because I know it puts a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility with that word because people say that to me as well. Like, oh, you feel like you're a safe space. And I'm like, I don't want to have that responsibility. But I feel like that's the only word I can really use that I feel like in the community that you're really cultivating is try to have a safe space. And I think that we both are kind of cut from the same cloth that whatever you choose to believe, whatever route you take, as long as you're treating people with kindness and showing up with love, that's what matters.
That's beautiful. You just preached. Just preached. I knew it was in there. I knew it
Yeah.
was in there.
Not in my I promise you that's not in my journey.
Okay. Okay. We'll see about that. You'll be sorry you
Uh,
said that.
I know. Everyone keeps trying to get me into that or into politics, and I'm like, neither. I'm good. No, I don't
Okay.
want to.
All right. All right. No
I think
pressure
I'm
here.
valuable where I'm landing. But but okay, let's talk about this word deconstruction because
Okay.
it is something that I was exposed to recently in the last couple of years because I didn't really know what it was or what people were experiencing. But how would you define deconstruction for people that may not know what it is or what the process is?
Well, it's interesting because I never heard the word until I came to TikTok.
Mm,
And
okay.
that's what the algorithm is like unbelievable because by day one, I was already starting to have those kinds of videos on my FYP. And before that time, though, I would say things like, I am untangling from the beliefs that no longer serve my highest good.
Mm,
And I didn't have a word for that
yeah.
other than just continuing to say that. And it's also kind of broad, it can allow people to draw their own conclusions. So it was very non-committal, and it also gave me some room not to necessarily put other words behind it. Word deconstructing, to be honest with you, I didn't like it.
Mm,
When I first
okay.
heard it, I did not like it. I'm like, "Is that what really? Is that where we landed? Is that what we're gonna use here?" It sounds very violent, and it sounds like, well, what's left in the ashes?
Mm,
And obviously, I've changed. It's the name of my book.
yeah.
But it also in that moment when, in the beginning of the book, I talk about an experience where our home flooded in almost right before I went into seminary, and looking at what my goals were and what my dreams were and how the water changed my life.
Mm,
And I had this feeling of like, okay, everything is gonna get demolished. And then I gotta then build back up, and then I get to restore. Then you put on the finishing touches and you restore things in a new vision. And really, so in that way, deconstructing is appropriate.
mm,
And so I see it almost as those 3 phases when our house was completely gutted because of the kind of, it was really gross water,
yeah.
and it damaged everything, and black mold then came into the home. It's like that what's in your life.
Mm,
And it really is. You keep peeling away layers to not only reveal the things that you do have that need to be let go, but it's also the things that need to be healed. And then what's in its place? Once
yeah.
that destruction is done, how are you going to build it back up? And that's why it becomes like deconstructing can become your spiritual path. Especially for those of us who were raised in, Christian patriarchy, any
Mm,
type of Christian patriarchy that afforded us privilege of any kind, it's very important to be aware of, that deconstructing and decolonizing are a lifelong process. And a commitment to that means that we change our mindset. If not, we always feel like we're the smartest people in the room. We should be the loudest. I know you cannot wait to hear me talk. I know you cannot wait to hear what I have to say. So there's that those kinds of things we have to be aware of. So for deconstructing for me now is for me to check in with myself,
Mm,
to see the places where I'm hiding hurt. And I'm if I may, I'll tell you a quick story.
yeah.
When I realized I was ready to untether from my Christian identity, first of all, reconciling that because the book already has a part 2, and it's just a year old because I don't talk about that in the book because it just happened. I then had to reconcile with the fact that this was something that I'm letting go of my family's legacy and being at peace with that. And then when I told the story, and really I haven't told it much out in social media land as much as I've written about it. So it's here on TikTok, and boy, has it gotten some interesting comments. It's offended a lot of the somehow it found its way to
The other side of TikTok.
yes, there you go. High control evangelical to differentiate the high control evangelical
Mhm.
Christianity or the conservative side of Christianity. And that's okay. They can do their thing.
Sure.
But the comfort and the assurance and the gentleness that people who got it gave me, offered me, like,
Mm.
welcome to this place. But it kind of angered me.
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't talked about this outside of this. So, but it angered me because I thought, wait a minute, no, wait, I'm supposed to be helping you.
Mm.
And then that again, that's another layer of deconstructing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see that.
Wow.
I wanted to believe that this was something that I could hold from a place of empowerment. But before I did, I had to realize, I had to accept that I was revealing how hard this was.
Yeah.
I was revealing how this was something I tried desperately to hold on to because it did mean something to me
Mm.
for a long time, and I had to grieve it.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
have to grieve it,
Absolutely.
and what it the memories of my grandmother, because of her, I am spiritual.
Yeah.
Of her, I always wanted to look for the divine in people and in my life and the ways I will leave the world a better place,
Yeah.
that I found it, and I had to reconcile all that. That's a good example of what deconstructing is.
Mm. Mm.
Humility ego will always have a death grip on the steering wheel. Humility is just sitting over here going, "Well,
Yeah.
anytime you want me to take the front and center, I'll do it, but you have to invite me."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was humbling,
Mm.
and obviously I'm still working on it. It's relatively new. I think I wrote that in April.
Mhm.
So it's still relatively new, and I'm still
Yeah.
dealing with that. And then technically, I've only done one video on it in the social media world, so I should probably talk more about it.
Talk more. And it's interesting to use the word grieve. I think people don't realize that it is a grieving process because you are becoming a different person, untethering yourself, which I love that you use that word, untethering yourself from what you maybe grew up with, and that's what shaped you, right? Until a certain point in your life. And now you're like, well, who am I now without those set of beliefs? Who am I now without that structure, that organized religion? And it's a loss, but then it's also a rebirth as well
Yes.
because and this beautiful discovery, which I think that there's beauty in that. There's pain, obviously, and you have to go through it. But I think any kind of evolution that you have in life with personality, I mean, you go through that when you get married, you go through that when you have a baby, if think there's so many different things that change who you are, and I think that people don't realize like that is a big part of it when you change your whole belief system that shaped you. Now, who am I? So I love that you share that. I definitely think you should do more videos on that because it's
I
so important.
Well,
Yeah,
I have a feeling this might end up clips if I can have it. Do they give you recordings of your
they do give
Yeah.
you clips. So
Okay.
You gotta share those because those are super important, super
I I
important.
I promise I will. The other part of that, if I may, were the pushback from the, I would say, conservative, high control evangelical Christians who really wanted to mock me for how much I spoke about the tension inside the political place we are now,
Mhm.
and why that was such a determining factor for me.
Mm.
And for a long time, I haven't done a lot about that as far as responding to it, unless I just wanted to get a little snarky and
Right. We all
comments.
have those moments, it's fine.
Yes, but I haven't done a lot with elaborating on it until I realized, oh wait, empowerment's showing up because I'm ready to talk about it.
Mm.
And this might be clunky, but I'm going to try to say it
Okay.
because part of it is, what do you expect? How
Mm.
how can you now tell me that it's not political?
Yeah.
You're trying to distance yourself from politics that has always been inside American Christianity. So
Sure.
do not tell me I can't make it a reason for distancing myself from it,
Mm.
because it was in the pulpit, it was in the Bible study, it was in the way they told you how to vote without telling you how to vote. It was all there. And it was also in the apathy, because we knew what was happening inside those churches where this Christian nationalism has been birthed. I was in them as a child. We
Mhm.
knew it was in there and we said nothing.
Mm.
And even, there's a sense of responsibility of progressive Christianity, for because we had this unspoken code where we just didn't talk about it.
Right.
We
Right.
didn't talk about that church down the street because it was Christian. So now, obviously the radicals did, the Westboro, or
Sure.
even as a child, I remember a Bible study that was talking about why all other churches were wrong.
Hmm.
But so that gave it permission to grow and fester.
Yeah, yeah.
And so w- now it absolutely is about the best opportunity that Christianity has to exist, to survive, is a Christianity that understands its ethical responsibility to clean up the mess
Mm.
of former Christianity. And that will require a responsibility to politics that's humanity focused.
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
only way it's
Yeah.
going to survive, and
Mhm.
and then literally not only distancing, but separating. It's
Yeah.
not enough just to say there are various denominations. There are some that are just dangerous, and that there has to be that language around it.
Yeah.
And so, again, for me, permanently unchurched and then untethering was the next step.
Yeah.
Because if you look at, I can see off to the side what's happening over in TikTok land. Though, like you said, that community, that's who I represent. Yes, there are people there who are still churched. You and I have a respect for each other, and you see yourself working inside the system. And I
Mhm.
admire you for that. And you understand the mutual benefit of our coexisting.
Absolutely.
And for me, I needed to be planted deeply inside that system to say, I'm going to represent the unchurched from a place of untethering myself from my Christian heritage, because that keeps me more focused,
Mhm.
instead of trying to think that there's some kind of obligation I have to clean up what's back there. But
Sure.
but we're not mutually exclusive. We need to find a way to coexist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, that I think that's a conversation that will continue to expand.
I agree. I think the working in tandem is incredibly important because it's a collective liberation, right? It's a group project that we all have to be a part of, no matter what side of this we're on. You said something that really struck me that I just absolutely loved. You said humanity focused, and God, I just love that phrase because it's not what we're seeing currently in our political climate. It's very self-interest, right? It's very self-focused. And I'm wondering, for you, having been deep in it and now removed from it, where did that self-centeredness really stem from a organized religion standpoint. I have my own thoughts and I actually just did a conversation about this in Huffington Post, but I want to hear from you how you think we've gotten so obsessed with, and I say we, I don't mean me, you know what I mean?
I
Say
did.
we, but how we've gotten so obsessed with self-interest and not being more humanity focused.
So I just put together the framework of a writing I'm going to post on Sunday where I'm trying to, a beautiful human being gave me the phrase struggle salvation.
Mm,
And then it led to, I don't know if you can indulge me for just a second. I'm going to see if
yeah.
I can find this struggle salvation because then it led me to, salvation, like a salvation focus, almost syndrome.
Hmm.
And
Like an
one of,
obsession.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the things I noticed, and I'm trying to elaborate on that, and so I don't know what's gonna happen with this Sunday writing, but it goes along with that question, is how much, even though we were in community as a church, the focus was more about you bypassing the pain and suffering of the world to make sure that you understood that your primary focus was to always focus on your salvation.
Mm,
So whether you are suffering greatly or you are doing the work of the Lord in your church, it always had to be your church. Things out in the community didn't count. Not on my side of Christianity, it didn't. We had sermons about it because I worked in animal welfare. I've worked in animal welfare for 25 years,
wow.
and I was mocked for it
Ugh,
because it wasn't about Jesus. Because anytime you bring in empathy or compassion for the world, being in the world or not of it, then that's competing with the needs of the church. So the church teaches you how to be selfish.
hmm,
Church teaches you that greed is next to godliness. The church teaches you that spiritual bypassing is don't look at the pain of the world and the suffering of the world or the fact that we're completely eradicating our natural resources or that animals suffer, because all of that's going to be made anew when Jesus returns and we literally have heaven on earth. And so that becomes the playbook to keep people hyper focused on the church's needs, then in turn on your needs.
yeah.
So
Wow.
anytime anything that was, and honestly, I've never used that phrase humanity focused until right now as I was speaking. So we both need to hang on to that.
I love it.
But I, that to me is the crux of it, is
Yeah.
understanding that and this is not me knocking the belief. If your belief is in salvation and that you're, whether it's through works, whether it's through belief, whether it's through the act of baptism or a combination of any of those things, I'm never knocking how a person's faith and belief are rectified with their human action. But
Sure.
there is absolutely nothing, I believe, in the Bible that justifies us ignoring the pain of our neighbor
Right.
or the
Right.
suffering that we collectively cause.
Yeah.
But that is a tenet of Christian nationalism.
Yeah.
So all you have to look at is a person like Mike Pence to see that. He very much espouses that. He did it when it was subtle, but it was always a dog whistle to that conservative, high control evangelical Christian that says, you hear what I'm saying when I say that God gives us infinite um, ability to use the natural resources.
Mm,
I know what he's saying. We've
yeah.
all sat in those that's saying, don't worry about the pain of the animals.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't worry about our water being tainted. It's all for God's glory because
Mm,
our reward is in heaven. So I
yeah.
believe that's a lot of the teaching. I can't speak to the younger generations that have moved away from that kind of religious ideology, but
Yeah.
those of us who still have that in us somewhere, we have to make sure that that is a big part of moving away from those indoctrinated teachings when we deconstruct so that we
Yeah.
understand how closely our actions and our awareness, our awakening to how our actions impact other people, or even if it's just our mindset, how we look to, for instance, here's a really good example. I believe that one of the biggest problems with white women voting for Kamala was because of our bias to look for white men to lead.
Mm. Mhm.
And
Yep.
they would not believe in a million years that they are racist. They would not see it that way. But if you understand that that's part of those indoctrinations,
Mhm. Mhm.
but the only way you become aware of it, and then how that harms others by reinforcing the system, then you can start to deconstruct from it. But those are hard things to deconstruct. And it's
Yeah.
usually when something gets close enough to your life, where someone that you truly love or yourself, where you realize the harm that's caused within this structure. Like, oh,
Yeah.
thought only they were going to hurt. Now I realize we're going to hurt too. And you're going
Yeah.
to see a lot of that falling out right now. And I do think you do, as people are trying to recover from MAGA, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and some of them not in a healthy way.
Yeah.
But I think we'll start to see that. But that's my feeling, is that it's really part of the highly indoctrinated beliefs that creates a spiritual bypassing.
Yeah. It's uh, hearing you say all that, like, it all makes complete sense, but it's also so utterly devastating. Specifically, your last point that you're making, that we're gonna start seeing a lot of the fallout, and we are starting to see, even with the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, who's completely now going against everything that Trump says because her children are going to have higher health care, and she doesn't want that for them. But it's unfortunate that it does take it having to affect you personally for some people to care. I've never been homeless. I just did a whole podcast about homelessness. It's something I'm very passionate about. Not a member of the LGBTQ community, but I absolutely care about their rights. I've never had an abortion, but I want to make sure that people have reproductive health care. And I don't know why we can't take this collective care attitude, specifically if people claim to be Christ followers, because it is very clear to me what he said we are supposed to do if we
Mhm,
choose to follow him, right?
mhm.
I've never been confused on what his message was. And somehow it's been so distorted. And Jesus is a white American, gun loving, homophobic, racist man. That's who he's become in America somehow. And I just don't get it. I don't get it.
It makes no sense. There is
Yeah.
no reconciling. There is no reconciling that with Jesus.
Yeah.
No, there is no way. And
Yeah.
that's the reason why when you read like the article from in 2022 when Russell Moore, the former president of Southern Baptist Convention, who came out and said he's literally hearing from pastors whose church members are complaining when they preach on the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor, blessed are the hungry, blessed are,
Yeah.
all of these things, which are supposed to be the words of Jesus,
Mhm.
who tells us that love is service, love is humility, love is kindness and compassion. So for anybody to stand up and tell you that empathy
Hmm.
is a sin,
Yeah.
you immediately know you are going so far removed from anything that's scriptural. But I mean, let's be honest, history shows us that this happens.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
everything around World War One started because, you have to look at this time right now. And if you're a Christian and you are looking at your faith and what it's telling you, all you have to do is say, who are you more aligned with?
Hmm.
Is it the confessing church that Dietrich Bonhoeffer started to fight fascism? Or is it the ones who bent the knee
Hmm.
and became the German Christians who supported Nazism?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just very clear. What do you
Very
who
clear.
do, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to contort yourself to fit in a narrative that doesn't exist, I hope that they look themselves in the mirror and give themselves pause, because there's never a time in history where oppression of human rights and suffocating the rights of others can ever be aligned with Jesus.
Yeah.
It just cannot be.
Right, right. It's a very good point. Very good point. Before we wrap up, I always love to ask people because I know times are hard and we're always so focused on the terrible things that are happening. But what is giving you hope right now?
I just did an article called Women Who Bent the Arc.
Mm,
And I have this mild obsession with the stories of the 20s about, I'm here in Indiana, and how close we came to a member of the White Sheet. Oh, hold on, I just saw something. TikTok just asked me to prove I'm still here. There. Phew, glad I saw that on my eyes. Oh, there's quite a few people over there. Hi, guys. I'll be over there in just a second. I have an obsession with understanding that because how closely we came to a man who was proud of his white sheets that he wore, and he was a powerful leader. And the fact that he, the story is horrific. He brutally assaulted a young woman. And at that time, women didn't talk about those things.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
hid in shame and silence. But she came forward and told her testimony in her words, and it brought him down.
right.
And you can go through history and you can look at the Shirley Chisholms and you can look at the Marguerite Chase Smiths and you can look and that bridge to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Jasmine Crockett and Kamala, and understand that it just takes one person to stand in courage.
Yes.
It's like Dr. King said, and President Obama said, the arc of the moral universe, it does bend towards justice, but it bends because people grab it and they bend it. And
Mm,
I do believe that as humanity, we are awakening to a level of consciousness
yeah,
that says kindness and compassion are our moral compass. We
yeah.
must lead with that, but patriarchy is always going to try to grab and hold
Sure.
onto it. We are in its death throes. I do believe it cannot survive. And even though we may be through rough times, I do believe that among us we have Madge Oberholzer and Marjorie Chase Smith and Shirley Chisholms. We have them among us.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
look at the women who started the French Revolution, you look at the women in Poland, you look at the people who have created movements when they finally come together and hold hands and say enough is enough.
yeah.
And we're getting very we're here. We're here now. We're in that time. So I won't give up. For where we are now, my children, my grandchildren, and other people's children, I I want to just say this and I'll stop. I have had the honor I have had the honor to be the first person for hundreds of people for them to feel safe enough to come out
Mm.
and share their story with me.
I know what that feels like. It's heavy, but it's also you're doing something right when you feel, and that's why I use the word safe. Like it's such a heavy word, but it's true. Oh, you're making me cry. But it's a heavy word and it's a big responsibility. But you are doing what you're supposed to do if that's how somebody feels about you. To be able to be that vulnerable and allow them to be their true self with you, there's really nothing more rewarding than that. I've been in that position many times before. Having gone to a super conservative evangelical Christian school, knowing people that you have a feeling, and then they feel comfortable telling you, and I'm like, I'm glad you felt safe with me.
Yeah.
So I get that. It's really special, and I love what you've built. I love the community you have, and I'm sure you will continue to be the first for a lot of people in
That's
this
where I will
time.
continue. I have to. I will continue because I hope in my lifetime we're going to make this right. Not only right, but better. But we
Mm,
can't dismantle something until the people at the table who have been harmed, who have been historically oppressed, are sitting there as equals,
yes.
not not because their heads have been patted and they've become tokenized in those roles, that their voices are loud and proud and the ones in the center. And I want to see that happen.
Yeah.
I want that I visualize it. I see it. It's part of my manifestation, if you will. I want to see that table built. And that's my hope. That's what
I
keeps me
love that.
going.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're gonna keep fighting together, and
Yes.
I'm so honored to know you, and thank you for sitting down. I could have talked to you for hours.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much. I've
Um,
enjoyed our time. We'll have to do it
absolutely.
we'll do it again soon. I
We
think we will.
absolutely will. We absolutely
Okay.
will. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.